Hey guys, this is Phil Swift here, and welcome to today's episode of HEMA Gear Reviews. We have a special treat for you. I've had this sword for about a year now. I've been definitely wanting to do this review earlier, but sadly I couldn't due to COVID. And so here's our review, all the footage I have so far from for the Castille Economic Saber. Sadly, I wanted to get more sparring footage, but on the first night of sparring, after we were allowed to, I had broken my pinky that you see here, uh, and with a longsword, I was using bad gloves, and so don't use bad gloves. Don't cheap out on the gloves. And ever since then, I haven't been able to really. I can finally grip, which is great, but my doctor says that I shouldn't be sparring, and so I haven't been sparring with any heavy weapons. It still pains me to squeeze my pinky and my ring finger, and guess what? In Saber, that's how you do your cuts. So that's I didn't realize how important my pinky is for Saber, and now I do know. So let's start off with the Castile economic stats. It is 700 grams in total weight. It has a point of balance between 15 and 17 centimeters. Mine was closer to 16.5. It has a length of 34 inches with the 20 millimeter flat grounded saber blade. It has a stirrup style guard, or some call it the D guard, using the M6 thread, F3 flex only. Honestly, it is a pretty good flex. I'm mainly a rapier fencer, and so I thrust quite often with the saber. It does flex very well for it being an F3. So let's talk about the quality of the saber. And I've used it extensively during COVID for solo training. I've hit pels, that is wood, tires, and I've also lent it to my students so they could spar with it for I think the past 2 months now. And we've been sparring it against longswords, against the Mark II Easton Saber as well, and the other basic Tibetan Saber. And honestly, it's held up really, really well. It barely has any major dents or any burrs. It hasn't burred since I got it, and it sparked a couple times in the bouts, and I haven't had to deal with any burrs. And that's mainly because of its rounded edge. It's got a 3 millimeter thick rounded edge, which makes it an absolute tank of a saber. I'm pretty sure I dented the Easton Mark II a little bit, and it did leave a mark, a little scuff on the Castile little saber, but nothing worth trying to stress over in cleaning up or anything like that. So it is very, very durable in my opinion, and I absolutely love that as a trainer, as especially a like a beginner trainer, or you know. So that's really good. The only thing I didn't really like about the Castile Economic Saber was the PLA grip. The PLA grip, when it first came, it was very sleek, slender, and kind of slippery. And I got some really small hands, so the grip I found was a bit too small for me. Now it might be perfect for like a dueling saber grip, but if the point of balance is around like 16 centimeters, so it's quite far. It's quite weighted, and so I needed maybe a little bit more bigger size grip. So the best thing to do to fix this problem is I used hockey tape, and I just uh, probably spent a good 20% of the tape just wrapping it around the hilt until I found that it was thick enough for me to comfortably use with my grip. I like to use all of my manuals, all the styles that I'm learning, which is Destreza, um, Spanish Saber, uh, kind of requires a thumb grip, and this saber is a bit too tip heavy for the thumb grip, but ultimately it's a good challenge. And so I love using the saber anyways, even though it's a little bit tip heavy. It's probably better for a hammer grip, to be honest, but you can still use it for the thumb grip as well. It's just your thumb's going to get a pretty good workout, so just be prepared for that. So let's talk about its design. I don't think they made this saber based off any antiques at all. It says it was based off or the Rodelli curve, but really I think it's a bit more a bit too curved to be a Rodelli curved, and the specs makes it kind of close to like a 1855 Italian officer saber, or the British 1796 infantry saber. The only major difference about this blade, aside from the curves, those sabers might be a little bit more curved than this one, is that this saber is longer. So the 1855 Italian and the 1796 British, they tend to be around 33 inches and under. This one's a whopping 34, so it's a little bit longer than the other two, and that really makes it different. Now the other two sabers have a D guard as well, so I think this is closer to those two that I've mentioned, um, because I do like the D guard with this particular saber, because it is wide enough for you to wear it with your spez heavies or superior fencing glove. I'm gonna see if I can grab it really quick, but so I can easily fit it in these heavy gloves. Now, granted, this means you got a bigger target here, especially on the back of your hand. But I mean, this is after breaking my pinky. I'm gonna wear a spez heavy or a superior fencing heavy, because I value my digits now. But yeah, I definitely don't. A lot of people, a lot of masters and instructors don't really recommend the D guard for beginners, because they like their students, maintaining their hand and digits. But if you use a good enough glove, like I would recommend one of these, or a sparring glove, mitten, and those will give you a little bit more articulation, and the sparring glove mittens, they're not as heavy as these, um, so they won't feel like you're essentially wearing a boxing glove with a saber, right? So and I'm sure you can use red dragons too. That will work just fine, right? So overall, I think the Castille is definitely a bang for your buck. It's only sitting at 225 USD, which is a little bit on the high end for economic sabers. Like, you have the Hanwei at 124 right now, and on Cult of Athena. I think on average they're about like 170, and then you have the Cold Steel saber as well, which is at 134, and it's generally around 180. So if those weren't on sale, then it would be fairly good in comparison, but like in price wise. But ultimately, I would definitely go for the Castille over those two, unless you need a particular design, like a dueling saber. Then go with the Hutton or the Cold Steel. But honestly, I've heard really bad things about the Huttons and the Cold Steel. I've used the Hanwei and the Cold Steel before. They get dents very, very easily. They'll be good for like a solo trainer or something to drill with, or if you're not hitting hard at all and you're just, practicing and calibrating well, then I think it's perfect. But if it, unfortunately, the quality control of the Hanways and the cold steel is very sporadic, and it could be either very good or really, really bad, and you're usually getting you might not even get right down the middle. It's usually one or the other. So um, it's uh, best of luck kind of thing. Well, just because of that, I rather pay the extra, $100 or $80 just to get the Castille economic saber if you want like a cavalry trainer or like a heavier kind of saber. That's probably the best bet. Now, what you could do as well, and Castile is awesome with this, is that you can get the thinner blade from Castile, the 16 millimeter instead of the 20 mil, and you could put it into a Radelli hilt or a Hutton hilt from Hanway, or I think Cold Steel too. Um, but that's something that a lot of folks are doing, and that might be a viable option for you if you wanted like a lightweighted dueling saber. The Castile blades are definitely something that I will vouch for forever because their quality is just the best. In terms of durability and stuff, I've always got my money's worth every time I buy a Castile blade. So that's something for you to consider. I hope this helps, and stay safe. And thank you for watching.